Hi, everybody. Feel free to open your mic and say hi. How are you enjoying this lovely rainy day? We're going to get started in just a moment.
Hey, Jesse, it's Susan. I'm here.
Susan, you're
How you
new.
doing? Is Audrey on? Is she queued up for tonight?
Don't see her yet, but everybody's trickling in.
Okay, she said she wasn't feeling well earlier. So I said I would read the thought of the month if she needed it, but turned out she said she didn't. So I just wanted to check.
I'm sure she will make it.
It's like a big meeting tonight, 20 already.
That's awesome.
Good.
Well, we've got lots of fun things in store here, so.
And some rain.
I think it might never not rain again.
I know, if you're trying to garden, that's definitely what you feel.
Definitely nice. I don't have to water anything. I need more rain barrels.
I need to put my rain barrels back out. They're still winterized. Time to get them out there.
All right, Audrey is with us.
Good.
Whoop, sorry, I was muted. Hi.
How are you doing?
Doing well. How are you guys?
Okay, good.
Good.
We're
And
wet. If we've been outside, we're wet, right?
Yeah, I just brought some plants in the garage, and it's thundering and lightning and pouring.
Oh no, really?
Mm-hmm.
You're afraid they'd get blown around too much?
I just wanted to make sure that they didn't get blown over. Yeah.
Yeah, the tall ones especially.
Mm-hmm.
all right, guys. It is 7:02. Everybody should be able to come in as they please. I would love to welcome everyone to our April meeting of our Southeastern PA Chapter Wild Ones. We have lots of exciting things to cover tonight. We are up to 134 chapter members.
Oh my
We've got
gosh.
15 new members this year, or this month, since last meeting.
Wow.
And we have even had some of our members relocated to new Seedling chapters. So we're doing really great. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, I'd like to show you who we are. I'm Jessie Schiffler, the president. You can always reach me at that email address. Our vice president is Audrey. She's on the line with us tonight. Susan is our secretary and webmaster. She can be reached at the Secretary Wild Ones email address. We have a new treasurer. Yay, Denise is with us. Whether she's on the call tonight or not, she is our new treasurer. She's going to handle all of our financial things once I hand it all over to her officially, but she has agreed to take us on. That's wonderful. Lindy is our membership chair. She is working tonight, so she's not here. Our advisor is Marilyn, and she's helping us tackle some things down in her part of our service area. We have an exciting new committee that we're starting up, and Anne has agreed that she is passionate about this and wants to tackle this committee. So we'll have more on that later, the Homeowners Advising Committee. And then we still need a Community Projects Committee chair. This would be somebody who works with the members of the community and our Wild Ones chapter to get projects done at a local level using granted plants from Wild Ones to like-minded organizations out in the community. So if you're interested in something like that, reach out, let us know. We're working on the process for how that will go, so it'll go more smoothly for you. You can always check out our recorded meetings on YouTube. They're uploaded within a day to a week after our meetings. And we have our website and we're on Facebook. So check us out. I'd love to shout out our new members. We're getting new members from all over the place, which is very exciting. Philadelphia, we got 4 new members from last month. Collegeville, Oxford, Phoenixville is continuing to grow. Media, Hatboro, Doylestown, Newtown Square, and Wayne. Some of those towns have really strong like-minded organizations in them. So we are kind of sharing members, which is very exciting because we can get a lot more done when you have strong communities. And this gives you an idea. If you see your town listed there, somebody new joined, and maybe you can email us and we can try and connect you so you can have a chance to get things done in your community. We also had a new seedling chapter startup since last month, and that's the New Jersey Gateway Seedling Chapter. So some of our New Jersey members who didn't previously have a chapter may be moving over to that chapter. Our financial report, which in the future Denise will take care of, but I wanted to let you know we have a significant balance that we are trying to use to do projects. We have received our quarterly dues reimbursement from National, which was more than half of that balance. So it was really great. We got a lot of new growth in the last quarter. And we were reimbursed for envelopes and seeds, and we paid for plants for community projects. This is the working title of we're in the process of creating a committee to provide homeowners associations, townships, community groups, and anybody really with the basic native plant information they need to ecologically improve their properties. We're creating a presentation, which is what you're looking at there, that will lay the foundation of information. We're working on an application process that gets the homeowner thinking about their goals and how Wild Ones can help them achieve them. We're looking for knowledgeable, experienced Wild Ones of Southeastern PA members who would be willing to serve on the committee, reviewing applications and giving advice and knowledge to homeowners for their specific growing conditions. Members who are comfortable identifying native plants and invasive plants, who are familiar with our local nurseries and can lend advice to homeowners new to native plants, but who want to do the right thing. We've been contacted already by townships working on their sustainability planning, HOAs who are looking to improve their ordinances, retirement communities who want to benefit their residents and wildlife by creating healthy habitats, and apartment complexes looking to make common spaces more ecologically functional. So if helping any of those groups has your interest and you want to do more than just your personal property, reach out to us, me or Ann, if you're interested to be part of this great growing committee so that we can really make a big difference. One of the projects that we're looking to do, we were hoping to do this in April. We're not sure if we're going to get all of the paperwork and the commitments in by April, is a Reeves Park project. We're collaborating with Living Landscapes, which is a strong group in Phoenixville. And we're hoping to pull out all of the invasives in this beautiful enclosed section of the park and really make this a demonstration garden of how native plants can not only beautify, but provide great habitat and ecological function here. I want to give a shout out to Anne, who coordinated this great plant rescue at a garden that she worked really hard for, but just didn't work in the situation that it was in. So she sent out emails and got everything coordinated so that people could come and rescue the native plants out of there. And you can see these lovely and useless daffodils that they asked us to leave because they wanted to keep those, but take everything else of of purpose, essentially. So we rescued a large majority. I wish I had gotten a before picture. I got there about 15 minutes late, and people had already done a really great job of rescuing some plants. So I didn't get a before picture, but it was remarkable to see people caring enough to come and get plants that otherwise would have just been dumped, because I think they're going to turn that into not a functioning garden, really. Susan, can you give us a little bit of information about the campaign to try and get invasive species banned for sale?
Sure, Jesse. So last fall, there was an impressive email campaign from Pennsylvania residents that was spearheaded by our chapter, Wild Ones of Southeastern PA, and the Pennsylvania Native Plant Society. Pennsylvania added the first 2 invasive ornamental plants to the state's list of controlled plants and noxious weeds, banning the propagation and sale of Japanese barberry and Callery or Bradford pear at the end of a 2-year phase-in period. The support of many members of Wild Ones and PNPS, as well as other ecology, environment, and outdoor sports-oriented groups, was really crucial to this success. The committee received dozens of letters and emails from these organizations' members all across the state, demanding action to ban the sale of these invasive plants, and as a result, the committee did take action. We don't want to stop here. The Pennsylvania Invasive Species Council has recommended a top 25 list of plants that should be banned. Wild Ones and the Pennsylvania Native Plant Society believe that these plants need to be added to the list promptly to prevent their further incursion into our roadsides, fields, and forests. We know that last fall, public comments from residents were key in getting these committee members to move forward and actually enact the first ban on invasive ornamental plants. So this year, we want to galvanize the committee to ban more of these invasive non-native ornamentals, including non-native privets, euonymus, nandina, butterfly bush, and Norway maple. So those are the 5 plants or plant groups that we're focusing on for this period. The committee's next meeting is April 21st. That's just about 2 weeks from now. And we need your help to make this ban happen. The committee, Wild Ones and the Pennsylvania Native Plant Society are working together on this. We're going to be sending out emails to our members, as well as members of many other nonprofit groups across Pennsylvania, asking members to send a public comment to the committee, either via email or US mail, in support of banning these additional non-native invasives. So the email will include sample messages. So all you have to do is to select which message you want to send. It's great if you want to add a personal comment about your experience in seeing these invasive ornamentals wherever you drive or live or walk, but you don't have to. The point is to flood the committee with comments, which they do take into account, and to galvanize them to act. So please consider taking a few minutes when you see this email to send one of the emails in support of the ban, and let's get the Controlled Plant and Noxious Weed Committee on the page to ban these invasive ornamentals from sale and propagation in our state.
Excellent, Susan. Thank you so much. Susan's been instrumental in walking us through how best we can do this. So the least we can all do is pick an email that will be like a letter format that will be attached to the email, and send it via the email address that is here in the top left of the screen, or the snail mail address that is on the right. And I want to mention that we are coming towards the last few days to get your order in for our public North Creek order. This is bulk pricing, open to the public. If you are a member of Wild Ones, there's no handling fee. If you are a non-member, you are able to just pay a $10 per flat fee and order flats. Flats are starts of plants. They come in 32, 50, or 72 counts. It's a very economical way to put a lot of plants in your space if you have a large space to cover. Plants really grow very well when put in the spring, because spring is nice and cool. So they go into the soil cool. It rains a lot, so you don't have to worry too much about watering most of the time. And by the end of the season, you have what would be close to a full-size plant that you paid a fraction of the price for. So the way you have to be careful about doing this is when you get on the North Creek website inventory, you have to make sure that the plant is available by April 25th. And some of their inventory is a little sparse now because everybody, thank goodness, is thinking about planting native plants. We can talk about doing this again in the fall and give you longer lead time because we've been holding this sale now since January, I think. So it's coming to an end. We're going to be picking up our plants, and then you'll pick them up from my house in Pottstown. I don't remember the date off the top of my head. Yeah,
April 28th
28th. Okay.
is a Friday.
And
Sorry, it's a Thursday. April 28th is Thursday.
Thursday. Excellent. So they'll be here, and we'll make sure that will all happen. Susan will send you your confirmation. If you send your request to Susan and North Creek gets back to us and says, sorry, like that inventory is sold, she will let you know. So you're not paying until you get a confirmation from Susan about what is available and what the cost is. Any questions, email her or I, and we will get you some answers. Next up, we have a wonderful thought of the month by Audrey. We are going to be talking all about hedgerows.
So this month's thought of the month was inspired by an article that Susan sent to me, written by Heather McCargo of Wild Seed Project. We can think of hedgerows as living fences. So while a hedge typically consists of many plants of the same species, sheared to a uniform shape and size, a hedgerow is a diverse planting of many different species of woody plants with herbaceous ground covers at their base. Plants are chosen that have similar growing requirements for soil type, moisture levels, and amount of sunlight. As with any design, it's also important to think about layers. Small trees, a mixture of shrubs of various sizes and shapes, and a mix of ground covers should be included to create dense and diverse habitat. This will also help keep weeds at bay by cutting down on their available sunlight and ground space. Another benefit is the privacy provided, which is probably why most people plant hedgerows, as well as for windbreaks and for screening. Heather brings up maybe the most important reason for planting hedgerows, which is creating wildlife corridors. She imagines our landscapes connected by a network of hedgerows, linking habitats and supporting animal and plant migration. Hedgerows provide abundant options for nesting, shelter, cover, and food for wildlife, from insects to birds to small mammals, to people. The larger the hedgerow, the greater the benefit to wildlife. Heather recommends a minimum of 6 feet wide by 15 feet long. Try to connect your hedgerow with other habitats on your property or a neighboring property. But don't be worried if you can't get that minimum in right away. It's better just to start and then add than not do it at all. In addition to site conditions, when choosing plants for your hedgerow, try to have a long season of blooms for pollinators. A diversity of plant species also provides resilience to pest or disease. And I can attest to this because when we moved into our house, we had to have 25 evergreens removed from along the road because my husband was worried they were going to fall on cars going by, or worse, somebody walking by. So they were all the same species and they were all either dead or dying. So we couldn't, because of their location, we couldn't keep them for the woodpeckers, etc. So we instantly lost the privacy, beauty, and habitat that these 30-year-old trees provided. I've since replanted about the same number of trees and shrubs, but I've included about 8 different species so far. So we will have plant lists in our newsletter thanks to Susan, for various growing conditions. And you can see some that Jesse has put on the screen here. But in our newsletter, Susan will link to those for various growing conditions that you may have on your site. And I'd say just start planting a hedgerow at your house. They are beautiful and vital for wildlife.
Excellent. Thank you, Audrey. And I think that for those people who are furiously writing down some of these plants because their growing conditions match the titles here, some of these plants are going to look familiar later in our main presentation, because a lot of these are edibles. So they serve dual purposes, and that's wonderful. We also have an exciting tree of the month, Audrey. These pictures are amazing. I'm excited to hear about the American Hophorn Beam.
Yeah, I love this tree. And it's funny because I chose it because it's so, I don't think a lot of people know about it, and therefore it's underutilized. And it's funny, when I went to research it, Edge of the Woods Nursery must be have been thinking the same thing because they spotlighted it too recently. So that's where most of this information comes from. By the way, I highly recommend their website just for information and beautiful pictures. I mean, of course, the nursery as well, but their website is amazing. So Hophorn Beam is a small to medium-sized understory tree growing to about 30 feet tall with a 20-foot spread. In nature, it tends to have a single trunk and a broad open canopy, but in the landscape, it is narrow and conical when young, growing very dense and oval-shaped as it matures. Leaves are a soft green and small in size, similar to birch leaves. The Hophorn Beam is part of the birch family. They make excellent street trees because of their smaller size and less leaf litter. Its bark is smooth and gray when young, becoming darker and plated and rough with age. This is a way you can tell the difference between American Hophorn Beam and American Hornbeam, whose bark remains smooth and gray into maturity. The Hawkhorn Beam gets its name from its fruit, which resembles hop flowers. These papery fruits start off green and turn to tawny brown over the growing season. Flowers emerge in early spring in the form of separate male and female catkins on the same tree. The long yellow catkins are the male flowers, which pollinate the smaller female flowers that you can see. They almost look like little pine cones. They're just so cute. Native to the eastern half of the US, you'll find American Hophorn Beam growing on rocky slopes and understories of acidic upland forests with oaks, pines, birches, and historically chestnuts. As an understory tree, American Hophorn Beam provides cover and food for ground-dwelling mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, insects, and spiders. Ruffed grouse and wild turkeys eat the buds as a winter food source. Nutlets or seeds are eaten by woodpeckers, nuthatches, quail, and small mammals. The jagged bark of older trees provide cavities to nest in for insects and invertebrates. Wood from this tree is extremely hard and durable, hence its nickname, ironwood. It has been used to make tools, fence posts, and longbows. I think this tree is a winner for large and small yards alike. Plant in dappled shade to full sun. American Hophorn Beam is highly adaptable, tolerating a variety of soils, but preferring slightly to moderately acidic and moist, but well-drained, drought-tolerant once established. With its beautiful and interesting fruits, it's sure to be an eye catcher and conversation starter, easy for me to say, in your yard.
Excellent. It's definitely on my gotta get it list. Thank you very much, Audrey.
You're welcome.
Next up, I just wanted to mention one of our members, Rick, reached out and said, hey, I think that it would be a really great idea if we had an upcoming thought of the month on No Mow May. And I agreed with him. However, we had this amazing thought of the month already for April. And if we waited until May to talk about No Mow May, we'd be a little late, right? So I wanted to mention, if you've never heard of it, No Mow May is a movement essentially that's happening all over the country, and I believe even in Europe. And if you Google it, you're going to find lots of information on it. And if you were lucky enough to attend the Chester County Beekeeping Association's Wild Ones Conference last month, we had an excellent presentation on data-driven evidence that if you mow your lawn every 2 weeks, you will have the largest population of bees. And if you mow it every 3 weeks, you'll have the largest population diversity of plants. So there's data out there that supports this. If you go the entire month of May without mowing, just imagine the diversity that will pop up, and you might find some plants that you never knew you had because you gave them the chance to grow. The whole purpose is to increase our insect population because we're allowing blooming plants to take the place of useless turf grass. Now, above and beyond no mow May, if we had no mow ever, because we had no turf grass and all we had were native plants with paths, and you could mow away your paths, think about the diversity then. So I like this quote from Dr. Del Toro. What you do in 1 month it helps, it's cool, but what you're doing for the rest of the summer or the rest of the year is what makes sure we're protecting our pollinators. So I want to thank Rick. It was a great idea to bring up now ahead of May. And if Zach is on with us, I would love to give him a few minutes. He has something exciting to share. Zach, are you?
Yeah.
Awesome. I will stop sharing so you can.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Zach. A year ago, I got into native plants and I started cataloging, understanding the different native plants and what I wanted to look for. Long story, very, very, very short. I assembled a team of 12 volunteers and we made our own plant lookup website. And I'll share it with you all. Oh, let me put it in the chat real quick. We're not live yet. It will be choosenativeplants.com. It's just a teaser site if you go to that.com. But this is the beta site that I just put on the screen. So let me try to share my screen. Can you see here? Yeah. So this site will show you just Pennsylvania native plants, and you'll be able to search for different criteria like dry, pollinators, flowering months, if you can actually buy it locally or online, the flower color. And then you can also search. So maybe I'm thinking about asters and I want, oh, let's see why it's not working. We're not live yet. Let me go for aster. And then I'm like, wow, that's a lot of asters. Which one should I choose? Well, it's a shady location. And I click shade. And then whitewood aster comes up, which is a popular one for shade. And then you could, of course, go for milkweed too. So the other two more capabilities I'll show you all is if you like any of these, you can favorite them. And then they end up on your favorites list right here. The last point I'll show is when you click more info, we spend the time to catalog if these plants are in local stores catalogs. And if they're in the local stores catalog for all native nursery, we showcase them here. Eventually, we'll have a little drop down where you click the store down here. And then the user would say, all right, I'm going to Redbud next week. What's some shady plants in that store's catalog? And then that would help shortlist what they can actually buy. So yeah, we're almost live, and it's very community maintained. It's really just a Google sheet that feeds this. And yeah, that's it.
That's awesome, Zach. Well done.
Cool, thanks.
What a great resource we're all going to have. Very excited, especially I think as the data rolls in and you're able to build in some of those other functions, I think it's going to be really great.
Yes, yeah, totally.
All right, guys, I am going to go back to sharing my screen because, and Zach, I hope you're checking the chat because everybody's super impressed. And,
Oh, good, good, good.
okay. Tonight's main presentation is Edible Landscapes by Michelle Hensey. She is one of our SEPA chapter members. She is the Wild Ones National Board member. She's also the founder of Northbrook Native Plant Nursery, which is opening next month. And she is one of the leading advocates for banning the sale of invasive plants in PA. She was on that first group that got that first round banned last year. So Michelle put together a presentation for us. Unfortunately, she had a family emergency tonight and was unable to attend our meeting, but she sent over the presentation. I'm going to do my best to convey the information. I'm sure she would have done an excellent job and probably had some things that she would have added that I might not, but this will be just a primer on edible landscapes. So Michelle wanted to start talking about permaculture being the idea that instead of using annual plants for food like we typically do and what is typical of agriculture, we think about perennial plants to add to our annual food crops. You plant perennials once, they take time to mature, but after that they have a reliable output that you can, there are whole systems of farming that work this way. And the native plant agriculture book is really good and walks you through this. So there are ethics and ideas behind permaculture, caring for the earth, caring for people, and your fair share. I have to be honest, I've not read about the permaculture ethics, so I can only assume that fair share means using what you need and leaving some for the other creatures of the world. An important part of permaculture is guild planting, which is the idea that you're using multiple layers in your landscape, that you are having a ground cover, you are having herbaceous material above that, you're having shrubs above that, you're having understory trees and canopy trees all in your landscape, taking up all the vertical space and all of the space and time, providing long bloom seasons, and it's all in the same area. So you're using all of the levels that are available to you. In permaculture, that can include annuals and perennials. So planting a tree in a designed bed is beneficial, adding to pollinator flowers, nitrogen fixers if you're using things like Baptisia, and you are increasing the food production for both humans and insects. So some of the great plants that you can use in your edible landscape. She started out and she did say to me, I know this is a hybrid. I think it's worth mentioning. So because it's a hybrid, I don't know much about it. She included information for us. Ooh, let me go back to that one. Sorry about that. I'm trying to move this so I can see better. There we go. This would be a canopy tree. Gets 60 feet high, grows in full sun. There are also just American chestnut species that you can look for. I know that They are working on disease resistance. They're working on naturally occurring resistant species and propagating from them. So chestnut is something to look into. In fact, I have a few American chestnuts growing in seedling containers that were given to me. Seeds were given to me by the, which group was it? I think it was a chestnut group at the Lancaster Wildlife Festival last year. I have since given several of those seedlings away, and I have a few more here. I don't know that I have the place to plant them, but I think I will put them at my township in some secret location so that they get a chance to be out in the wild. Next, we have serviceberry, which is an excellent understory example of edible plants. It can go part sun to part shade. It is medium to fast growing, but fairly short-lived. If you're in an especially moist condition, a microclimate, and close enough to cedars, you can get cedar apple rust, which makes the fruit inedible for humans. But I've heard both ways, that birds will still eat the berries or birds will not eat the berries. Either way, it's a cosmetic issue. It does not hurt the tree. And some years are going to be good and some years are going to be bad. Sometimes I get cedar apple rust and sometimes I don't. So I don't think the potential for cedar apple rust is a good enough reason not to plant this plant. I think it's definitely worth it, even if you might some years have the rust. The disadvantage to this is I can only see half the screen. Okay, so another name for serviceberry is Juneberry, and the reason that is because the trees set berries. They're not ripe yet, but they set berries in June when so they set berries in June, but the reason it's called a serviceberry, sorry, I lost my train of thought there, is because back in colonial times, the ground would be thawing around the same time that the berries were on the trees. They called it serviceberry because they would do their mass burials and have their services for everybody who passed away over the winter but couldn't be buried due to the frozen ground when the serviceberries were setting their June berries. So interesting way it got its common name. There are several different types of serviceberries, the Amelanchier genus. So you'll want to pay attention. They all set fruit, but their forms are a little different. So pay attention to your growing conditions as to the form that you might want to plant. The American plum is another great plant for edible fruit. I've heard that it's much tastier than the cultivated plums are. However, they're much smaller. It is a suckering plant, so it can create a thicket, or it could be your hedgerow, part of your hedgerow, or it can be trained to a tree form if you stay on top of the suckering. It sets great blooms that are covered in pollinators. And it's very tolerant of sun conditions and soil conditions, but does like moist soil best. Persimmons are just outside of their natural range here, but they do well here and they are fairly long-lived here. They can be an understory tree. They were prized by indigenous people of the Southeast. The reason you typically find the Asian persimmon in grocery stores is because they tend to store a little better and transport a little better than the native, which are best when ripe, and they only stay that perfect ripeness before they get mushy for a very brief time. The pawpaw tree is a lovely tree, can grow full sun, full shade, naturalizes well, so it like suckers. Fruits are interesting. The flowers are interesting. I would recommend not planting it too close to your windows or your doorway because the flowers don't smell good. They are trying to attract their pollinators, which are actually flies. And we all know flies like not good smelling things. So the flowers kind of smell like rotting meat. And the fruit is delicious, doesn't taste or smell like rotting meat. That's the good part. And later in the presentation, I actually have a date and time for a pawpaw festival that I think we should all go to later in the year. The American hazelnut is a lovely bush. The blooms, which I don't see on here, are really interesting. It's just past blooming here at my house, but it has catkins, and then it has little tiny red star-shaped flowers that are the female flowers, all on the same shrub. It is suckering. It has lovely leaves, and it's kind of, you don't really notice it too much in the normal growing season, but it's got great fall color. The fruit is really interesting, and even though my shrubs did make fruit last year, I didn't get any of it because the squirrels ran off with them, I think, as soon as they were ripe. So at some time, I'm going to figure out how to actually eat the fruit. The high bush blueberry, I recommend everybody have blueberries on their property. Last year was a bumper crop of blueberries from everybody I heard from. They make a great hedgerow. They are great in masses. They make a lovely accent plant. They're a really great substitute for burning bush because their fall color is spectacular. So if you've got burning bush because you wanted that red color in the fall, blueberries are actually much lovelier. Full sun to part shade, though they set better fruit in full sun. They do like acid soils, but they seem to be very adaptable. So I think that everybody should have some blueberries. And one of our members has a source where she gets blueberry plants for $10. And I think she's going to try and load us up at some point this year. So we might be able to get you some good blueberry plants for $10. Elderberry, wonderful in a hedgerow, is a nice aggressive native plant. So if you have one, wait a couple years and you'll have 100, and then you can give elderberry volunteers to all of your friends. Makes a great thicket. It's beautiful when it's in bloom, covered in pollinators. The berries are amazing on the bush. They're lovely off the bush. We made a elderberry mead this year that was delicious. So lots of uses. And if you don't get to them quickly, the birds will get to them for you. So wildlife definitely enjoys these plants. The viburnum lentago, the nanny berry, all of our viburnums are amazing. So depending on your growing conditions, and most of them are pretty adaptable. I know Susan probably can't have all of the viburnums because of the deer, but everybody who doesn't have a deer problem should be able to have some viburnums. Fruit's lovely, flowers are lovely, the habit is lovely, and this one is very tolerant even of shade. Black chokeberry is a shrubbier chokeberry than the red. It grows best in full sun, though it can tolerate part shade. I have an aunt who makes a chokeberry elderberry syrup, like she combines the two to offset their sweet and tartness, and it's wonderful. And they are setting their berries about the same time, so you can collect them both and save them for syrups and for jams and jellies and all sorts of helpful things. Black raspberry would be under or amongst these other hedgerow plants because they grow by canes and the new berries are grown on old wood. You have to be careful when you're trimming them that you don't trim off all of your fruit producing canes, but you can control them fairly well by cutting the stems. Wild strawberry, I have not heard, I don't know if anybody has any experience with eating these versus the cultivated strawberries. I've heard that wildlife definitely loves them, and I've heard they make an excellent replacement for turf grass as a semi-evergreen ground cover, but I haven't specifically heard about eating the berries. They are very adaptable. They keep a basal rosette, and they're also very hard to find on the market. So we need to find somebody who will grow a whole lot of this for us and be able to offer it for sale to members or to everybody. But it's really hard to find in the trade. And then Michelle gave us a list of her resources. I am going to check in the chat quick to see if there are any questions. I apologize. I bet that Michelle had lots of other information to share with us. Let's all hope that everything is going well tonight in her family. Wild strawberry is available from Prairie Nursery. Thank you, Marilyn. And they're small and tart, lots of sugar to make jam like my grandmother did. Excellent. Okay.
Jesse, maybe we can open it up to members. Does anybody have any experience with growing edibles that they would like to share?
I would love that. Let me see if I can make everybody bigger. I know I have, I think, everything that was listed in the presentation. I'm pretty sure. But some of my persimmons are just small, so I don't have any fruit from them yet. My pawpaws, this would be the first year that they might produce. But elderberry, blueberry, raspberry, I have all the viburnums. I don't eat the fruit. I leave it for the birds. Hazelnut, yes. Yeah, I recommend sprinkling them in everywhere. They're beautiful plants, and if you can get to the fruit, they're great. What's the best time of year to plant berries? Now's a great time. In the fall's a great time. It depends what size plant you're getting. And most berries, if you get a couple, the canes will, they end up arching over, touching the ground, rooting, and sending up more. So you can kind of be economical about getting a couple plants and making a lot more from it. And Maya, do you have the Fragaria that you started, the wild strawberry from seed?
Yes, in jugs.
Where did you get your seed?
Victory seed, maybe? I'd have to look it up. I got much of what I got was from Victory Seed, but it might have been Prairie Moon.
Okay. And you've had success winter sowing it? Have they sprouted?
Well, they're started.
Nice.
They're germinated. We'll see.
I had put in a similar plant, the barren strawberry, last year, and I am amazed at the new growth that it has put out so far this year. Like last year, it kind of sat there and didn't do too much. This year, it has tripled in size already. The new
It's
growth,
not edible though.
not edible, correct? Thank you.
No.
We don't want to try that one, but the habit is similar. The appearance of the plant is similar, but you're right, not edible.
Wild strawberry is also available at the Brandywine Flower Sale on Mother's Day.
Oh, good deal.
We don't have a whole lot, but we have some.
Nice.
And they do spread. They're great at spreading. Thank you, Shannon.
I might take you up on that.
Yeah.
And somebody said from Isel they got some. So the question about why wild strawberry not being considered invasive, this is where common names come into play. If we're talking about the wild strawberry fragaria that we talked about tonight, it's a native plant, so it can't be invasive. It can be aggressive for sure, but it can't be invasive if it belongs here, if this is its natural range. If you're talking about the wild strawberry that is actually from Europe, then it is non-native, but because they're essentially fairly delicate, they don't really block out too many other things that I've found. It isn't invasive, it's just non-native, with potentially invasive tendencies. But if somebody said, I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep up with there's an invasive strawberry that I have too, mock strawberry. I forgot the Latin name, yep, and it's all over the grass. So to me, if something wants to grow all over my invasive turf grass, I don't really count that against it. Because at least it blooms and it provides those little berries that I'm not going to eat, but somebody probably is, whereas the turf grass isn't even providing that. So I'll let all my non-native turf grassy kind of friends there duke it out. And as long as they don't, and I've not had them outcompete any of the native plants I've put in. So I would think that's why they're not on the invasive list.
The mock strawberry is the one with the yellow flowers, and the native strawberry has the white flowers.
Excellent identification.
And the mock strawberry is pretty invasive.
So yeah, it jumps out into the garden edges and you pull it up. Yep, it has those runners. So you pull up one and it like leapfrogs to the next one and the next one. Yep.
They're not easy to tell apart except for the flowers.
Right. And do they flower at the same time?
I think not. I can't remember, but I think the yellow ones, the mock strawberry blooms earlier, I think.
Mock strawberries yellow.
Yeah.
I have to try and remember that, and I can't promise that I will. So I'm going to ask Marilyn 10
Maybe
times.
I can find a source.
I probably Google it 6 times a year too, and I still
Right.
remember it.
There is one native strawberry that's yellow, and I forget the first half of the Latin name, but it's Waldensteinia. Just the second.
That's the
half
big
of the name.
Yep.
That's the one that's not edible.
Okay, yeah. But that is yellow flowers, right?
I think it does.
But little, like larger flowers.
They're blooming right now in my yard. It's one of the early bloomers.
Mine aren't blooming yet, but they're the ones I was talking about that have such amazing new growth on them.
I think I've had mine for a while, and that's probably why they're blooming sooner. They're really wonderful. They're great ground cover.
Yeah, I'm really liking them. Zach, that is.
They're evergreen.
Yes, yeah, their little basil rosette was so cute.
Right.
May apple, yes. Passion flower, yes. Spikenard, yes. The berries were so pretty. Spice bush, yes. Low bush, yes. My rabbits got most of them. High bush, yes. That is a lot of blueberries. Black raspberry, yep. Virginia strawberry. American plum, yes. Excellent, Zach. You're feeding everybody.
No, that's just my list of what I keep track of. I don't have all those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's a good list. Very good list. I will feed everybody. I have most of those, so everybody can come over and eat my yard at some point. Not everything's producing yet. We'll see. There is a native mulberry, Sarah. There is. It is the red mulberry. And I was just looking at a plant list today. Well, actually, I was looking at 10 today. So I don't remember which place had it, but somebody had the native red mulberry. I want to say it was Go Native Trees, pretty sure. The problem with that is it hybridizes with the non-native, and the non-native is much more pervasive. I'm pretty sure it is on an invasive plant list because it pushes out the native. So yes, there is a native. It is hard to come by, and it's the less pervasive one that you'll find. Mayapple poisonous? It's a great question. I'm not positive of the answer. I know that turtles really like mayapple. It's not poisonous to them. But I don't know as far as people. I think that you can eat them. You just have to eat them when they're ripe. But don't quote me on that. Don't go eat it and die. I'm not positive.
Yeah, I've eaten mayapple. You have to wait until they're completely ripe.
Excellent.
So poisonous when unripe, edible when ripe.
Perfect. I don't think Seedville on Etsy. I have not heard of them.
So mayapple in large quantities, even when ripe, is poisonous, according to Dr. Google.
Okay. Well, I think that it would be hard to find a large amount of mayapples at one time. Because
Sounds like mayapples are like mushrooms. If you don't know what you're doing, don't do it.
yeah, I'm gonna just keep my apples on the tree and let the turtles have the ones on the ground. You have to, like, the flower of a mayapple blooms underneath of it, so you'd have to lay with your face on the ground to even see the actual fruit.
And it's essential to the turtles that you're talking about. They have to have them to continue.
Shannon, are you saying they only ate one because you can eat anything once, or because they thought that was the only amount that was safe? Zach, you and I are on the same wavelength. It's faster to talk than type. That's why. All right, guys. We are gonna move on to the next exciting thing we have, which is a ton of upcoming opportunities. I wanted to cover just our meetings again. Next month, we are going to have Mark talk to us about designing and planning our home landscape, and then we can keep these edible landscape plants in the back of our mind for when we are putting our landscape designs together. June is pollinator week. There's a week in June that's dedicated to pollinators, so we're going to do a specialist pollinator talk in June. Bondsville Mill Park will be giving us a presentation July 6th. Native Plant Guilds for 4 Seasons will be in August, and that will be getting us geared up for our fall plantings. Native Trees for Your Home Landscape by Mark in September. October, I think Zach is going to give us a little something, and I think we're trying to get someone else to do a bird presentation for us in October. And then Native Shrubs for 4 Seasons by Mark in November. And we'll talk about collecting wild seed at our December meeting. So lots of great meetings in store for us. Oh, I missed something. Okay, here. We have several chapter meetings chapter events that are happening besides our meetings. Excuse me, next week we're meeting at Zuza's in Doylestown, and I need you to email me and let me know that you're coming so that I can give you her address. We've changed the time to 4 o'clock in the hopes that more people will be able to make a 4 o'clock meeting. Originally we had it at 1:30, and that didn't make it accessible to many people. So if 4 o'clock is better for you, please email me, let me know that you want to come. I'm very excited to look around her property. She has been working diligently over the last couple of years to remove invasives and replace with native plants, and even had a beaver move into her property because she set up the right ecosystem, and now that beaver can essentially change the world there. Because I just was talking to somebody recently somewhere about how beavers are like the engineers of the world, and how we have changed the water flow of this whole continent because we have nearly eliminated beavers. So I'm really excited that she has a beaver there doing what it would naturally do. I have a friend who has a beaver, and he wasn't very happy about it because it was cutting down trees and like changing his pond and blocked the overflow and did all this like damaging stuff. And I'm going, let the beaver be, let him do whatever he wants. Like, who cares? You're just borrowing the pond. The beaver wants to make it how it's supposed to be. He wasn't buying it so much, but I think beavers are very cool. So we are in the midst of a lot of native plant sales that are about to happen. So there are several plant sales that are listed, and in the coming pages, I'm going to have lots of plant sales listed for you. If you're in the Berks County area, the conservation celebration is happening at their Ag Center on Saturday, April 23rd. The April 30th, the Lancaster Native Plant and Wildlife Festival. I would like to go to that, but I might have to go by myself. If somebody else is going, maybe we could go together. The PA Native Plant Festival is happening in May 7th. I'm definitely going to that. If you're interested in going and carpooling, because it's like over near State College, so it's like 2.5 hours away. We could talk about carpooling or caravanning over. We could meet at the Turnpike exit and kind of go together, or meet up there, something like that. The Hawk Mountain plant sale has not still, to the best of my knowledge, been announced, but it's usually that Saturday in May. We are doing a chapter tour at Stone Lee and a presentation by Ethan Kaufman on designing with native plants there at Stone Lee on Thursday, May 19th. On the 28th, we still have the opportunity to do a member tour at Bowman's Hill. It's $15 a person, and we need 10 people that say they want to do it. So you have to let me know you want to do it so that I can get our reservation in. On June 4th, we're all going over to the Bowers, which is the home of the South Central PA chapter of Wild Ones, for a guided tour there. We can do the same meeting, caravanning, carpooling thing for that also. And then Saturday, July 30th at Bonsville Mill Park, we are having our chapter tour and picnic. Check them out there. The rest of the year, we will figure out some other fun stuff to do, but that's a lot of events for now. And then on to the plant sales. So Chad and Rita put together lots of the upcoming events and an exhaustive list of lots of the plant sales that are happening. A lot of these are native plant only. Some of them will have featured exhibits of native plants, but are not strictly native. So kind of the title tells you PA Urban Garden Festival. They will have native plants there, but not everything will be native. So if you need to decide between one sale and another, sometimes that's a go-to for me. I'm gonna leave each of these up just for a couple seconds. Tomorrow, if you are a Natural Lands member, the members only, no, it's the next day. On the 9th, the members only sale opens, and then it opens to the public the next day on the 10th. The Schuylkill Center has an online plant sale, and I believe they're in person. I've never been there. I've heard great things about them. I would like to go, but I have not been there yet. So I put the link to their website on there. Oh, here's the natural lands. Members only are on the 9th, general publics to the 10th. This is an opportunity to volunteer. If you're in West Pikeland, their EAC is doing a planting, and there's a sign up genius for it. This is not a Wild Ones event, but a lot of our members live in these communities. So I want to let you know about the opportunities that arise. So a lot of like-minded groups will send me their volunteer opportunities so I can pass them along to our larger audience. So if you're available on the 9th, you can either write this down, or it may be in our newsletter link so that you can take them up on this in 2 days. Tonight, there was the first of 3 webinars by National on native plants for different situations. Those webinars are free, and they will be available by recording and on National's YouTube channel. So I look forward to watching those recordings, but I'm glad you all decided to come here and hang out with us live tonight. Next week and the week after, you're good to go to these. Brandywine Conservancy has a lot of great things happening. They have both pay what you wish and free and pay like fee things. So you just have to look at their listings to see what's going on and if it costs anything. And you said, Marilyn, that their sale is on Mother's Day?
It's Mother's Day weekend, and the members can come Friday, I think Saturday and Sunday it's open. I'm not quite sure, but it is Mother's Day weekend.
And where is it held?
It's in the patio of the museum. It's at Brandywine Museum.
Okay, gotcha. I think that their website has a list of plants sometimes too, right?
Yes, and I think that is just getting ready to come out. I think members might have it, and I know it's going to be available if you go to the Brandywine website. I think well, members are getting a copy of it, but there are thousands of plants, woodies, perennials, all sorts of wonderful plants.
Excellent, excellent.
I didn't hear.
No, that I was saying that's great. We will look forward to being able to see that if we can. I think that they do publish something, if it's even just a limited list.
If I find it, I will let you know.
Awesome.
Okay.
Abington Birdtown is having a plant sale April 23rd, and then a different Birdtown group is having their plant sale May 21st. So if you're in these areas, we should be covering some plant sale that is close to you. The Lancaster Conservancy is having a lot of ephemeral walks and Earth Day challenges. The Phoenixville Tree Advisory is asking for volunteers on April 23rd at Reservoir Park, which is that same park that I showed you at the beginning of the presentation. We are going to be hopefully taking over the planting of that enclosed garden, but this will be, I misspoke. I was getting Reservoir Park and Reeves Park mixed up. They're both in Phoenixville. Reeves Park is the one we're taking the enclosed garden. Reservoir Park is a different park that has a community garden, a dog walk, frisbee golf. It's a nice little park if you've never been there. they're having a planting there. And if you would like to volunteer to do that, I have the email at the bottom. You have to RSVP. This is a really exciting event that we're going to go to Friday, April 29th in Philly. BioPhilly invited us to be the floral component of Flora and Fauna. Their main goal is to teach people about birds in cities and the danger of hitting glass. So we are going to talk to them about all the plants that they could provide to help the birds, once they don't hit the glass, to survive well in the city. And it's a family-friendly happy hour type event. Another Phoenixville area planting, the Hidden River Riparian tree planting on April 23rd. April 30th. Reach out to Matt at that email if you want more information and you would like to attend that. So even if you have no property, there's no excuse not to get out there and plant some trees. Lots of opportunities here in the spring. The Lancaster Native Plant and Wildlife Festival, we talked about that earlier. They have lots of native plant vendors there. So you can get, last year I got Great Trillium and Buckeye. I got some really fun plants last year. They have wildlife, like refuge volunteers there talking about people. This year they're gonna have a food truck. They didn't have one last year. We were kind of still COVIDing things last year. So it was a nice event last year, and it will be even better this year. It looks like it's free. You just walk up and you can talk to people and enter. That's where I got the chestnuts too. It was a good event. We've been invited to give a presentation at the Wyomissing Public Library to talk to people about how to incorporate native plants into their landscapes. And if you've ever been over that way, there's a lot of really nice homes that have a little bit of property. They're in the city, just outside of Reading, but it's like West Reading, Wyomissing area. And they have a lot of manicured lawns. So I'm hoping to change their minds about some things, at least plant the seed and get more native plants in there. So if you're looking for something to do Monday night, May 2nd, you can join me. The Central Pennsylvania Native Plant Festival is happening by the Native Plant Society of PA. That's the one I was talking about. We can carpool or get up there somehow. I think that Ed from the Western PA chapter is going to have a table for wild ones there. But I'm not going as a vendor or as a table sponsor. I'm just going to enjoy myself and talk with some of our friends at the PA Native Plant Society. And they are going to have a band and food trucks and walks and all sorts of things. It sounds like it's going to be a great time. More May native plant sales. Pretty much every weekend in almost any part of our area, you should be able to get to a plant sale. And then this neat event that Shannon let me know about, the Dogwood Festival and Parade in Phoenixville, is on May 18th to the 21st. There's a parade, there are vendors, seems like and obviously like a little carnival place. Apparently, if you look at their website, the festival used to coincide with when the dogwoods were in bloom. But now there are so few dogwoods around that you wouldn't know that the two were associated. But it's been a long going, I think the longest running parade in the state. I might have come across that on their website. And I wanted to tell you, somebody that I met last year at the Philly Honey Fest wanted to pass on this information about Devereaux Advanced Behavioral Health, a job position for a specialist, production specialist in their greenhouse. They would be good working in a production greenhouse and has interest and facility in working with neurodiverse people. There's a little blurb there about how it's been run in the past, but if you are looking for a career change or an exciting opportunity to work with a diverse population and head up production in a greenhouse, this seems like a really fun and interesting career path. So I wanted to put it out there to everybody. Pawpaw Festival. It's not until September. It's over in York. It looks super fun. They're having a lot of different vendors. Geno's is going to be there. But there's pawpaw tasting and different pawpaw recipe things. That seems like a fun event. I don't know if as a chapter we want to go over. I don't even know what my schedule looks like in September yet, but it seems like fun. If I can make it, I would like to. And then I like to close out with listing all of the native plant nurseries that are selling plants all the time, not just on special weekends. I've added a couple from last meeting. I think I did finally get Good Host plants up here, and I thought there was another one I put up there. Geno's maybe, that might have been there before. But I'm gonna look at the chat here and see. Lynn says the Brandywine member preview is 5/6, 1 to 4:30. Public sale 5/7. Okay, 9:30 to 4:30. Eager about beavers. I'm gonna write that down. That seems fun. That is all I have for you guys. So open your mics and talk to me all about what's going on in your yards now. Or maybe it's your lakes right now. My yard is full of water.
Yeah, I have two things. This is Zach. I went to the Pawpaw Festival last year. I liked it. There's you walk there, it's a nice property. There's a long line, and that long line is so that you can buy a bunch of pawpaws. And they have them in these big bins, and people, that's the main draw, to buy a bunch of pawpaws. Then there's a couple vendors, then there's a couple nurseries. Then you can go and get a tasting plate, basically, of 5 different pawpaws. So that was helpful for me to learn what the different cultivars taste like. But you're not going to spend that much time there. Like, there's not that much to do. It's like a quicker trip, under an hour, I would say, when you're actually there. It's not like a long festival or anything, in my opinion. Yeah, that's just my experience.
That is great to know, because there are other fun things to do over there, and native plant activities that you could probably make a whole day out of it. So very cool.
Then one more thing, I bought an ounce of whitewood aster seeds from Ernst, and I broke them down into little packets and gave them to like people who wanted them in my town, Malvern. And I have 10 to share. It's the most shade tolerant aster. So if you could, all of you, if you want a pack, just ping me, message me your address, and I'll send you a half a gram of these seeds. They're good seeds.
That is very generous. Thank you, Zach. And what a great way to get a great plant out there.
Yeah, I planted white after last year, and I had one of them, when it bloomed, it was like blue, like a really, it was like it must have just been like a natural variety, but it's really pretty blue. You never know.
Cool.
Well, and I'll just add from the deer capital of Montgomery County that whitewood aster is apparently deer tolerant, as is bluewood aster. So I'm proud to have both of them, and they do reseed. They're happy little seeders.
Oh, I did add one other. Here's the last slide. Northbrook Native Plant Nursery. Michelle's nursery is going to open in May. So she has a website you can check out.
Jesse, the Dogwood Festival slide looks like it's still up there.
I'm showing Northbrook Native Plants. That's what's showing for me.
Really? Oh my gosh, I still have the Dogwood Festival. Okay.
How about anybody
Yeah,
else?
I do too.
The Dogwood?
I
I
do
do.
too. Yeah, the Dogwood Festival.
If I stop sharing and then I start
We do. Oh yeah, somebody just asked if white wood aster is deer resistant. I would say so. I haven't had them eat it so far.
How about that? And you know, I've found that the whitewood aster has lovely foliage this time of year. It's so it's almost blue colored. The foliage is really a purple blue tinge to it, at least here at my house. Really
Oh,
nice.
mine, I'm not sure mine is coming out yet, or it's really, it's still under the leaves. Yours is out already?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mine's out too.
Okay. A lot of mine are in the woods, so they've got leaf cover on them. The blue wood aster seeded all through the back of my meadow, and I didn't even know it until I was down slope and looked up this fall and said, oh, what are all those blue flowers?
Yeah.
So it's definitely a willing spreader, which I really appreciate, and it's very pretty.
And it's very hardy too, because they're doing construction on my street, and they were installing a gas pipe on the side of my house, which is where I have my little makeshift woodland garden. And they ripped it out of the ground, tossed it aside, and it survived being replanted. So,
okay, good for you for rescuing it. Yeah.
oh, definitely.
I like how low it stays. It just fills in around everything else.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that it stayed evergreen, but besides that, that's my only complaint.
No, there's not a lot that's evergreen. You know, even the Phlox subulata is looking more tattered than green right now.
And I don't mind that. I like basil rosettes. I like even the subulata, as long as it covers the ground, you know, it's doing its job. I like that.
You know what's evergreen for me is Phlox stolonifera, the creeping phlox. That stuff is like iron where it's happy, which has to be, you know, kind of wet and shady. It's fantastic.
Mine does not stay evergreen. I'm always surprised when you say that.
No kidding. Stolonifera. Wow, everywhere I have it, it's evergreen. Once it's established, if there are first year plants that I've been spreading around, they pretty much die back in the winter. But the ones that have been there a couple of years, they just kept an evergreen cover.
The Waldstenia is evergreen, and so is the Pacara.
Yes.
Yes, Pacara, definitely. That is such a wonderful plant, Marilyn. Thanks so much for sharing that. I love
And
it.
it's easy to share.
It does make lots, yes.
They're
You're
little
right.
purple buds right now. I'm so excited. The little purple.
Yeah, they're purple.
Right, yeah.
I think that's such a joke because they turn out yellow.
Well, I told you the first time I had it and those purple buds came out and I thought it was a different plant. So I moved it thinking it was this different plant. And one time I was like, oh yeah, that's what I wanted. But how in the world did you have a purple bud? That
right.
Purple yellow flower.
They're opposite on the color wheel. So why not, right?
It's great. So you said whitewood asters are also deer resistant?
In my yard, in my experience, the deer have not touched them.
Excellent.
That's the most I can say. And definitely the blues, because the deer are always through that meadow and they just haven't. Although, you know, because it's a meadow, there's mostly tall grass. So maybe the deer have been deterred from eating, I'm not sure, but they have not touched my blues either. They eat other stuff.
Does anybody have any ephemerals that they're really excited about right now?
I have hepatica, sharp lobed hepatica. I have one plant that I bought last year at the native plant sale, and it's coming up, and it's so beautiful.
Yes.
Wonderful.
So furry. It looks like an animal.
It is. Yeah.
I
planted a whole bunch of. I planted some berries. Oh,
So
I
my
planted one.
The timing keeps getting off.
Oh, whoops. I planted some trillium last spring, and it hasn't come up yet, and I'm concerned.
think deer like trillium, I think.
I don't have any deer.
Oh, lucky
What?
you.
No,
Oh my gosh.
Right.
Well,
I don't have
I
my
live
trillium are up, but not blooming
in a
yet.
neighborhood.
not all of my trillium are up yet either.
Okay, good. That makes me feel better.
And I was
Has
really
anyone seen? Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I was just going to say I was really fortunate to get some trillium at a sale early this year, and they were 1-year-old plants, and they bloomed like in their little pots. I don't even have them in the ground yet, and they bloomed, and I was just ecstatic.
Cool. Cool.
Shannon, were you going to say?
Yeah. So I planted Virginia bluebells last year, but I'm not really seeing them yet. Is that like I'm a little concerned?
Mine?
I feel like there's one spot that I think I see them coming up, but I don't see them anywhere else.
Yeah, most of mine have emerged. They're not bloomed yet, but they're at least up partway out of the ground.
Shannon, if it's in a colder spot or north facing, it's going to be a little bit later. And since you planted it just last year, I think it's definitely going to be later. So don't give up hope yet.
Okay.
Oh,
They're,
that's
Yeah, 'cause they
they're
were
tricksy
pretty
little
small.
things. Yeah, I've had them wait
Yeah.
2 years after transplanting to show their faces. And then all of a sudden they'll pop up and I'll say, what are you doing over there? And I'll have forgotten that 2 years ago I planted it there. They're very touchy little things,
Yeah.
I think.
I hope they're still there.
Yeah, I hope they are
wait.
too.
Good to hear though that experience, because you're so excited to go out there and see your plants, but then sometimes you're like, oh no.
I know, where are they? So don't dig up that spot yet. Just let them sit there for a year and think about their lives and decide if they're really going to come up next year. Maybe they just
Yeah,
really
I hear
hate to be
that happen.
disturbed.
I planted like bare root cranesbill geranium last
Mhm.
fall, and
Mhm.
it didn't come up last spring, and now it's coming up this spring.
Oh, neat.
So,
There you go.
Yeah.
So it might
There you
take.
go.
Surprised me.
I think bare roots take a really long time to grab hold. I've given up on bare root plants. The prices are good, but it's just not worth the hassle and the worry and the wait for me. I like small potted plants better.
Yeah, I tend to I like the plugs actually the best.
Oh, the plugs are great, aren't they?
Has anybody ordered from Pollination over the winter and looking forward to any deliveries? They're going to start shipping next week.
Oh, I was going to ask if you got those Flux subulata yet. So they're on their way?
They should be coming next week.
Okay,
They said
cool.
they'd start their deliveries on the 11th. So should have
Yeah,
them.
that makes sense. It's been really cold. Did you order Carex Flacosperma, the blue wood sedge from North Creek?
Yes.
I picked up my flat 2 weeks ago. They are fantastic. They're
Good.
already starting little shoots from the sides. You know how they spread slowly like that? They're in great shape.
Oh, that's wonderful.
You should be really happy next month with yours.
So, I got that as the replacement for Plantagenea because they didn't have that. And I was out looking at, I have 3 Carex Plantagenea. I love that plant, but apparently so do rabbits, that I didn't know that.
Oh, ouch.
Chewed on my plants, so they're all raggedy looking and they
No.
already. Like, I didn't even know grasses bloomed this early. But
Oh,
they
me neither.
such an interesting bloom. They're like striped spikes up in the middle of the plant. Very interesting. So they got these like,
Wow.
old leaves that the rabbits chewed on, and then these cool spikes. So very hardy that they're, doing their thing, even though they got gnawed on all winter. So I'm very happy with them.
The rabbits
Excellent.
didn't eat mine. Are yours in the rabbits have not eaten mine? Well, knock on wood.
Yeah, I didn't have any problems with rabbits until this last year. So now I'm finding out all of the fun things that rabbits like to eat.
Right.
And that's on the list. They gnawed off I put 2 Nissa black gum trees in. They gnawed those to the ground.
Oh,
Ladder nut
Oh,
gnawed like almost to the ground.
I cage every
No.
single one of my baby trees, because a lot of things will take a nip off the baby trees. So all of mine are in cages until they get big enough.
Well, I've learned my lesson, and I found out all of this when I broke my ankle. It was the day after I broke my ankle, and I was like, well, I can't work. I'm tired of being in the house. I'm just going to go hobble around the yard a little bit, and realized all of the damage these rabbits have done. So I was out there in crutches in a walk. I couldn't put weight on.
Oh no.
Dragging these cages around these trees that were already nibbled on. And then I was laying on the couch for 4 days because my foot hurt so bad. But get them protected before I was completely incapacitated.
Wow.
Jesse, that's when you send your kids to do that.
Yeah, it would have. They did come home and yell at me, but they had left me unsupervised, and these are the things that happen.
If you're unsupervised, that's what happens when we're all unsupervised.
Exactly.
You are so right.
So Zach, thank you for the link to getting your own plug trays.
Yeah, it's this tray with 98 little slots, and then you have to buy the little cells too. And then I like to grow plants in them. It just forces them to have a deep root system.
Yeah.
And then you're effectively making your own plugs, which is like the priciest way to buy plants. Like if you want deep plugs and a lot of them, that's going to cost some money. So like you're planning. Yeah, it's nice.
I save all of my trays. So if anybody needs gifted trays, I have piles here. In fact, at one point we had wanted as a chapter to have people volunteer to sell grow seeds for us in trays, and then we sell them or whatever. So I have lots of trays.
Cool.
Can you carry her pen? Sorry.
Sorry, what was that?
Sorry. No, I was talking to myself.
Okay. I'm having a lot of fun watching things like the Baptisia come through the ground with their little asparagus spikes. My May apples, they all look like little tiny alien penises jumping up out of the ground.
They are so weird. I thought the deer had snapped off the tops of my May apples because they were flat and white. And then I looked closer and I said, no, that's just the swirl. Yeah. And the more mature ones had swirled out, to green, and the ones that were emerging were still those little white plugs. That was so bizarre.
Yeah, it's so fun watching them. You can almost watch each day the little bit of progress they make. It's
true. They are cute plants. How are your winter sowing seeds doing?
I didn't do any winter sowing this year.
Oh, are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. I have.
Oh my gosh.
Wait a second. Did I do any? No, I don't think I did any. I still have some things in trays from last year's winter sowing that just weren't much, so I set them aside to see what they would do. There are some things emerging, but I can't promise it's not just weed seeds that blew in there in the time being. So to be continued if anything from last year is still working on it.
Got it. I asked because I'm finding that my pots, I check them every day because I'm out there anyway. Some of them are starting to germinate. And as soon as they do, I sweep them inside and put them under lights and they're going nuts. Good. So I have all these 4-inch pots. And so when you were talking about your plug trays, I'm thinking I might need those plug trays because I already have 2 trays full of grasses that came up earlier. And I've got, 15 or 20 4-inch pots at least that are full of seedlings that at some point I've got to put somewhere.
Remind me next time we are physically together, I'll bring them so you can have.
Okay, thank you. I think I went nuts last year. I ended up ordering 50 different kinds of seeds to winter sow. So I did go nuts.
Well, I had broken my ankle right at the beginning of December. So
you did, yeah, bad timing.
For the perfect time to winter sow.
Yeah.
And then time just got away from me.
Well, you had a lot from last year, like you said.
Right. But
And apparently I will have a lot this year, so I'll let you know.
Starting your own nursery over there.
I wish I could. Like you said, native plants are really hard to find. If
Yeah.
we had just started a couple of years ago, boy.
Oh my gosh, we'd be
I
right.
know. Yes, we would have all the plants now. Hindsight's 2020.
Right. But it's been a lot of fun. I've been doing a design for someone and looking for the plants that I want for the design. It's a challenge, but I get to peruse all these great plant lists all the time and then kind of come up with creative ways to get at least something similar to what I was envisioning. But
Yep.
I get all of the lists confused where I can find this thing or that thing, or I know I saw it somewhere, but which place was it? Goodness.
Zach is listening. This is what Zach's website is for.
Right.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, that would be great, Zach, when that's up.
Do you bleach your pots or cells if reusing them?
I'm lazy. I do nothing.
I was not going to admit that, but I don't do anything either.
I dry them out. I stick them upside down in my greenhouse over the summer. If that doesn't work, I'm done. I have no time for anything else.
Yep, I don't do anything special to them. Good, Denise is all in. She says that's great. That's what she wanted to hear.
Right. Well, bleach is poison. You know, that's toxic stuff. So if you use it, where are you going to dump it? I don't know. It smells horrible. You don't want it on your hands. You know, vinegar maybe, but why? I just don't. Why?
And I think that when we're just doing it for ourselves, if we lose something to a fungus or a bacteria or something, okay, you know, if we were trying to go into production, I think those are other considerations we would have to make. But when you're just growing for your property or you know, to give to friends or do whatnot,
Right.
we can do it very ecologically soundly.
Right. I think the most I would do if I were going to do it is wash them out in soap and put them out in the sun to sun bleach, you know, to sun dry. I don't see the purpose to do any more than that. And the same with compost. You know, some people say that you shouldn't use regular compost because you get a bunch of weed seeds. Well, I don't compost my weeds. I don't use that compost, but I do use vegetable compost and, you know, not lawn grass, but meadow grass. You know, if I pull some meadow grass, I put that in the compost. If some weed seeds come up, I know the seedlings that I'm looking for, I just yank the weeds out. It's not a big deal. Like you said, we're doing it for ourselves so we can take these shortcuts.
Right. And
Yeah.
I don't tend to use compost in my native plantings. I don't really amend the soil at all. Sometimes I'll top dress with a little bit of compost, but I use my compost mostly in my vegetable garden, that I just top dress my beds before I plant my seeds there. So
Then what do you use when you're potting out? Once you've started your seedlings and you're potting them up into pots or whatever, what do you put them in?
I tend to get the bagged raised bed soil. I'll find whatever is the most organic that has a compost component. I try to avoid the peat components, but I just look for raised bed soil.
Oh, I just found coir bricks. You know what coir is, the coconut fiber stuff. So I found it in brick form that was really affordable. So I bought myself half a dozen bricks, put a brick in a 5-gallon bucket, like they said, add water. And once it makes fluff, I do it like 40-60 with compost. So I've got what I think is a very light mixture, and yet it's got those whatever nutrients and rhizobacteria things are in my compost. So that's what I'm using for potting up this year.
I want to hear how that goes for you. I think that'll be a really good combo. I was at an event over the weekend and somebody was selling those core bricks, and I'm looking on my phone because I thought I took a picture.
Oh yeah. They're about the size of building bricks. They're a little bit taller. They're light as a feather, and they were maybe $3.50 or $3.75 a piece. So I snapped them out.
And they expand a lot?
Yes.
They do. They make, supposedly one brick makes 8 quarts of soil, and that seemed accurate.
But is it okay? I mean, the core, is it acidic, or do you know what the balance is of what you're making?
I don't know the pH of coir. I'm expecting it's not going to be as acidic as peat, just because peat is very acidic. So I would think it would be a little more neutral. I didn't test it, but I figure if I mix it with compost, you know, at
Right.
least 50-50, it's
And it's
pretty
nice that it's light because most of our soil is pretty
I
heavy.
know, I know. Yes, it's lovely that way. So they get a good start. I feel like they get nice soil for their roots. And then, like you said, Jesse, once I put them in the ground, I actually mix that stuff with the native soil a little bit and just stuff them in there. And from there, they're on their own.
Yeah, so this company is from Broomall, PA. It's a PA company.
Uh-huh.
And I was trying to see if their label says anything about the pH. It doesn't. However, it does say the electrical conductivity is 0.5 milliseconds per centimeter. So if anybody knows what that equates to in pH,
Wow.
there you go. There's that information.
I'm not even sure that's a pH thing.
I know, I'm sure it's not, but I don't know who electrically conducts things through their soil that needed to be a parameter they put on their labeling.
I wouldn't either.
Interesting. But I don't actually see a company name on this packaging. GAPS, GAPS. He said that they're typically wholesale, but I have an email. Anyways, he was selling big bricks that would fill like a large garbage can once
Oh,
you add
wow.
and they were $15 for like this. I mean, it was a big.
Yeah, that could seem right.
Yeah. So,
Wow. But you know what? That is a tremendous amount of stuff to mix. So what I found was this brick, I said to myself, well, I'll just break it up with my fingers and put chunks of it into the bucket. You can't. I mean, with a handsaw you could, but with my hands, I literally could not break it. So if you had a brick this big and you tried to mix water in a garbage can, you'd need a broomstick to mix it. Whereas this little brick-sized brick mixed very easily with a trowel and not about a gallon of water it took.
nice. Yeah, that sounds like a good ratio to try and work with.
It was. And the internet says the pH of coconut husk is 5.8 to 6.8. So that's right neutral.
Good, good.
That's nice.
At Costco, they were selling both the soil type of core and the mulch sized chunks of core also. So they were there last week. I was actually there today and didn't even look. I don't know if anybody else uses Costco, but they have a greenhouse there right now that is to die for.
Really? Can we have the greenhouse? Is that what you're saying?
It is. Well, it is. No, I mean to purchase. It's like home.
Yeah.
It is so gorgeous. It's cedar. It is vented. It's amazing.
Cedar framing and then plexiglass panels, or?
So it's cedar framing, and the bottom third is cedar, and then the top 2/3 and the roof, of course, are plexiglass. Or
Dang. Well, how much is it?
$1,300.
Oh, that's like twice what I paid for mine. Ouch.
But even so my daughter found me inside this greenhouse today, just like daydreaming and smelling it because the cedar smells so good.
So Mother's Day is coming. You should be dropping your hints, right?
Well, I did tell them, like, yes, this is what I would like, please. This is where I'll live from now on.
That too. You could actually sleep out there, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was amazing. And it had like the waist high benches around 2 of the sides. It had hanging.
Oh.
You know, it was all decked out. It was very nice.
Wow, I had to jerry rig all that stuff.
So
But it can be done.
Benches included in the price and everything?
Yeah, so you assemble the whole thing, and at least 2 sides of it had the waist high benches. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and cedar's not cheap, so that explains that.
Right now, so I'm not surprised that probably would have cost under $1,000 2 years ago, but now, you know, everything
Isn't that sad?
all
Yeah.
so expensive.
Right.
So let's talk about fun things. Is anybody pulling out any of their invasives right now? Because that's another great thing to be getting on top of.
I needed
Always.
to ask you about Artemisia Mugwort.
Yeah.
Anybody have any thoughts about Mugwort?
Keep pulling
Other
it.
than, ugh.
Oh, Marilyn, do you know what I'm doing this year? It is all over the south side of my septic mound.
Okay.
So I got one of those long-handled Cape Cod weeders, which has a very sharp little hooked blade.
You
But it's as
mentioned
long as,
Cape Cod before. I'm going to have to look that up.
yeah, it's as long as my arm, so you don't have to bend over so far. That's the beauty of or you can get a full-size long-handled hoe, but I'm just literally going along the ground, scraping at root level and cutting the stuff off. I'm not digging, which, as you know, the roots are just huge and heavy. So I'm just scraping off the new growth, and I keep going back every week and doing it. That's my strategy for this year. I'll have to let you know.
We'll
If it
see.
works.
Yeah, I think we all should write down our little experiments and see what works.
Right.
I'm just going to try and weed whack mine repeatedly instead of disrupting the soil. Let
Yeah.
them germinating until they're exhausted. That's going to be my trial this year.
That's a good plan. I like that plan.
Because I've tried to hand pull them in a different bed, and it looks like I make no progress. I may not be having the same ones come back, but I'm just sprouting up new seeds. So I'm going to try in this different area that is just overrun with it, the weed whacker method.
So
Yeah.
do they also spread by seed and the roots?
I didn't think so, do they?
Because when I got back this summer, I had some that were as tall as my house almost. They were huge, and I didn't know whether the seeds, how to deal with the whole thing.
Well, what is the internet? Burn it. How about burning?
I don't think that they're perennial. I think it's just an nasty.
Oh, I think they're perennials.
Oh yeah, the root system's
and all
huge.
the root system is huge.
And I'm
Mhm.
definitely have not been pulling out enough of it to be making a dent, because I'm not getting an extensive root when I pull.
Carolyn says it spreads from seed in warm regions.
Gets pretty toasty here.
It does, and it germinates best with cold treatment. So guess what? This winter, how cold was it? Yeah, but I still think the main source of those huge plants is the roots. I think if we're doing what Jesse says, which is consistently cut off the emerging green from the whole area, it sounds like in 2 years we might be able to start, but I bet it's going to take 2 years.
I need to find someone that can do that while I'm not here. And
Yeah,
I
you
have
do.
the worst trouble finding people that know how to maintain stuff and how to get rid of stuff. Everything
Yeah.
else just, kill, kill, kill.
Remember when you could
Poison,
hire high
poison.
school kids to cut your lawn over the summer? Now they don't do it.
Or they want $20 an hour to do it.
I'd even pay that to get somebody to deal with to come in once a week and cut back the Artemisia. I really would.
You know what? Are you on Nextdoor in your neighborhood?
When I got on Nextdoor, I got all this crazy stuff, and so I didn't
okay.
stay with it. But you're right, that would be a good source.
It might be a source of finding somebody with kids who want some summer work, because it is flexible work. Obviously don't do it in the rain. You do it whenever the plants are tall enough, etc.
And if that's one of the 2 plants I'm trying to get rid of, then it would be easy to ID.
Right. If I lived closer to you, I would do it for you.
I pay $20 an hour.
I have my own Artemisia, unfortunately.
$20 an hour is a pretty good deal. I mean, that's almost 3 times the minimum wage in the state.
It's a good gig for a kid, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a great gig for kid. Okay, so who has kids or grandkids who live? You're in Malvern, Maryland?
Near Malvern, yeah.
Yeah.
Zach's in Melbourne. He's not doing anything while you're
No, he's not
that's the
doing
best joke
anything.
today.
I
Zach,
thought
you have
that
your
was gone.
Zach has his own mugwort, don't you, Zach?
probably.
Or the equivalent.
I don't have any invasives, which is great.
We can
Nothing
help
to
with
deal
that.
with.
Oh.
Yeah.
We have still.
Well, I will say that we consistently, I got after the thistle, and it's really reduced an enormous amount.
Oh,
So,
good.
So that does work with thistle, cutting it, just staying on top of it, cutting it
Okay,
back.
good. Is Audrey still on? Because, yeah, Audrey, that's for you.
I pulled my.
Oh, you have thistle?
She did last year, she said.
Well, I keep finding all sorts of bad guys, but and it makes me cry sometimes.
And this lesser celandine is horrible because if you dig it, the roots are relatively deep, couple inches. So you're digging up this huge chunk of soil and you have to throw the whole thing away because those silly little bulbs are everywhere. It's tough.
There was a thing in the Blue Ridge Prism from Virginia that talked about how they got volunteers out and they would start in a certain section and spend just a half an hour or so every day working on it. And they did feel like they made progress. I'll see if I can find that article for you.
I think you sent it to me.
I think I did.
Yeah, you did. And I'm doing that in the areas where I've got small incursions, but where it's all over my creek bed.
Right, I have that. I have.
Yeah.
It's awful.
And I just realized I was muted, but I was answering you guys. I guess I have this stinking thistles coming back this year too.
Get out there with your
it'll come
weeder.
back, but if you stay on it, then it'll come back less. And
I'll
actually,
tell it you said so, Marilyn.
there is a native thistle, and if you can ID that, you would be an amazing person. But there is a native thistle that is very beneficial to pollinators.
Yeah, I don't think it. I think it's the Canada thistle.
I think the native has a whole different rosette, a whole different leaf structure. I mean, it looks like a thistle, but it's different.
But there's a field thistle, and there are a couple of kinds of natives that are around here are good.
True.
If you go to Hungry Hook, she actually sells the native thistle, so you can.
No, really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Like to try and identify and see if you're lucky enough to have any of that volunteer versus the Canada thistle.
I would love to know the difference. So I mean, I can ID the Canada, but there are other kinds that Yeah.
And Denise said she's been working on English ivy all day. In the rain? Does it? I probably
good in rain.
She thought she was in England.
I'm in North Carolina right now.
Well, my son is in DC and I'm going to get him to go after that. He goes after the wrong thing, so I've got to redirect him.
He doesn't know what ivy is? Oh, dear.
No, well, he doesn't go after the ivy. He goes after the good stuff. I've planted so many things at his house that have disappeared. But,
oh my gosh.
He's one of those people we have to retrain.
So the ivy trees,
new way of doing things.
Denise, did you have ivy going up trees? Did you have the satisfaction of actually sawing it off?
No, it's only in one little bed, and that's where I'm going to plant my the ferns that I'm getting from North Creek.
Yeah. Oh, well,
lucky
good.
you only have it in one bed. That's great.
Have it just pop up every now and then here and there around my property, and it's almost always under trees because birds probably brought the berries over and volunteered them in my yard. So I just have to keep an eye out, but I've never had it as a plant on my property. It's just volunteers from birds.
How about coming over from your neighbor's property who has trees 70 feet high covered with ivy?
Right.
If you drive down Bryn Mawr Avenue and you will see these beautiful trees that are just totally covered with ivy. They look like ivy trees. It's just, and it's so sad because they're these beautiful old trees that are.
And they die, right? Because they're smothered.
They pulled down or something. If people knew, then they could go out and cut.
But
people knew.
It looks pretty because they don't know better. They don't know it's killing their tree. I said, people think that it looks pretty and they don't realize it's killing their tree slowly.
Right.
Too late.
Well, the Willistown Trust has it on their trees too, so I need to get on them.
Yeah, they could probably use some volunteers because organizations like that may own a lot of property. They might not be able to get there with their people, but
and they do have good volunteers. I just have to realize, I have to let them know that I see that ivy on their trees.
And send them out there with a saw.
Right.
Yeah.
The multiflora rose is really taking off too.
Oh yeah.
Oh really?
I was worried that I wouldn't be able to identify. I kept thinking, oh my gosh, what if I keep saying this is multiflora rose and it's actually a native rose by chance? But then I look at the native rose that I have planted and there's just no mistaking them. They just don't look the same, especially right now. So I alleviated my fear. It's definitely multiflora that I'm pulling out all the time.
Yeah, you're right. I think the native, isn't it a whole lot more thorny, but the thorns are tiny and thick?
Almost like furry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and it's my natives are red or redder, and the multiflora is like green and looks like multiflora.
Right. It's very green.
Right. When the multiflora first comes out, it doesn't have that little bunch of hairs that you're supposed
Did you usually ID it with? Yeah.
So I'm like, oh gosh, maybe it is now. It's definitely definitely the bad guy.
Right. Especially when you dig down and you find that huge mother root that it's coming back from. Then you know. That's sad.
Okay, guys, I'm heading off.
Yeah, it's been a good meeting.
Nice to see you.
Jesse,
Nice to
thank you
see
so
everybody.
much for stepping up and doing the program. That was amazing.
It was. And Audrey's information is always really good too.
Thank you, Marilyn.
I love it. And we can go back and see it again, right? Because it's recorded.
That's right.
Right. And it'll be in the newsletter.
Great.
Next
I
couple
love that.
days.
The newsletter is so easy to manipulate. I like that.
Manipulate. Yeah, I manipulate the newsletter.
Well,
all right.
to go around, to work my way around it. It's really good. It's
Yeah, we
easy.
try to make it helpful.
I like to check it out because there's always little tidbits in there that I wasn't anticipating. I'm like, oh, that wasn't in the meeting. This is like bonus.
Oh, well, wait until you see this month's diary, not the diary of a rewilder. What's the other one? Rewilding step.
Oh,
Yep. Pledge to rewild, stop fertilizing and spraying. There's a whole bunch on soil and fertilizers and managing insects and dealing with weeds. I had lots of fun. So you'll all be going out doing soil testing.
Did you all see the Pennsylvania 12 bad guys? The
Dirty Dozen.
Dirty Dozen.
Yeah.
Is there something we could print and drop off at different places? I mean, you know, I don't think people realize how bad these plants are.
I really like their initiative of getting nurseries to sign that they're a certified, I forget how they word it, friendly.
The pledge.
That they're not going to sell any of those plants.
Right. I think that is a great initiative.
I do too. I was wondering, would we participate, like our neighborhood nurseries? Would we as Wild Ones participate with, is this through the Pennsylvania?
It's
Native Plant?
PNPS.
Yeah, it's the PA Native Plant Society. I'm all for helping them further that initiative.
Should we offer that somehow, or I mean, I would, if I had printed things like that, I would, I don't know, maybe that's a little obnoxious to walk into the nursery and say, well, I can do that.
Would it be obnoxious if we walked into our neighbors' houses and did it?
I think Audrey has somebody in mind.
I have lots of people in mind.
I do too. My son is one of them.
Oh, right. Well, you know how they go around and leaflet mailboxes, you know, these various companies. We can go around and leaflet a mailbox with that. It's the coolest thing I'll ever see on my mailbox.
Right.
Right.
Can you imagine like the day that we get bombarded with native plant information and you're like, awesome.
Instead of replacing your windows or getting your gutters cleaned or something useless like that.
Right.
Poison your lawn for you because your neighbor had their lawn poisoned. So why don't you want your lawn poisoned?
Point. That's
Yep.
like that saying from the 70s. When is it going to happen that the Defense Department has to have a bake sale to build a bomber and our schools have enough money?
Right.
Yeah, right.
Same thing.
And when was that?
1970s, I'm sorry to
Really?
say.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there used to be t-shirts. I think I got it backwards. I think it goes, someday our schools will be fully funded and the Defense Department will have to hold a bake sale to buy a bomber. Go find that on Amazon. It's probably there somewhere. Marilyn, you should remember that. You were just a baby in the
I
70s, weren't
could.
you?
No, I was in a fog in the 70s.
Oh, you were doing that stuff. Okay.
No, I was in,
TMI, Marilyn. TMI.
all these things I haven't told you all about.
That's
Okay, I'm leaving. I'm saying
Okay.
Before you
every-
get yourself
on
into
that
any
note-
trouble.
On that note, I'm gone.
Good night.
Thanks
Take
for all
care,
the good
everybody.
info, everybody. Good night.
Good night, guys.
right.
Thanks, Jessie.
Yeah, thank you, Audrey.
Good night.